Hello and good morning, everyone. So my name is Martin Geddes. I'm your event chairman today. So I'd like to welcome you here this morning. And many of you have come from a long way away, and we thank you for your efforts, and hope you enjoy the event. So brief introduction to myself, so you understand my relationship to hyper-wellbeing and this event in this space. My background is as a hardcore theoretical computer scientist, so I'm feeling very at home here. I currently work largely in networking and telecoms with various mathematicians and architects doing the next internet. However, I also have a sideline in my professional world on looking at more humanistic concerns. And I co-founded a thing called the Hypervoice Consortium to look at the future of voice communications. And that led me into researching the more sort of sensual paradigm of the way that computing was going. I had the luxury of spending a year to think about the future of communications and voice, and came to various conclusions. And what I and my research colleagues found that there's a fundamental shift going on in technology, away from the existing incumbent paradigm, you might think of as information technology, to one which is more humanistic, so human technology. And the center of gravity for the whole of this space and industry is shifting. And in that process, we're moving away from the way we traditionally have thought about technology and computing, which is about algorithms that help to automate industry and industrialization processes, to new kinds of applications of technology. So we're starting to have technologies that understand our feelings, and we start to engineer moods and feeling states. We start to think more about the kinds of ethical outcomes that technology delivers, whether it could be for the environment or our health. So the very nature of the problems to which we're trying to address are changing. And hyper-wellbeing is, in many ways, an exemplar, or the pole star of that process. It's a way of describing the ultimate destination towards which we might want to aspire. And I've known the founder of this event, Lee, for many years, and I've watched his parallel journey, also from telecoms and communications towards this space. And it brings also some new challenges. We're talking about intimate biosensed data, whether it's voice or our heart rate or our skin responses, and that's a paradigm change. It's the kind of data that requires new ways of thinking and handling, new privacy issues, as well as new opportunities. So we're gathered here together to explore an area which is not merely an extension or evolution of the existing healthcare industry, but I believe is actually a fundamental part of the future of the whole computing space. So as such, I'd like to invite up to the stage the founder of the event, and a warm welcome, a round of applause for Lee Dryburgh, please. Welcome, Lee.
Thank you, Mark.
Welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
So Lee, I'd like to ask you a few questions to help us understand and introduce this space, okay? So hyper-wellbeing, it describes some kind of aspiration for the world. How did you come up with this idea?
So first of all, this isn't pre-scripted, as you may guess. Everything's a little ad hoc here. Thank you, Martin, for being a dear friend and giving me an introduction. So I'll try and jump to your points quickly, since I know we want to keep this show running on schedule. With Ryan coming up at 8:45. She said, how did I come up with it? I would honestly need 8 hours. You were one of the first people, you were the first person I actually spent 8 hours with, explaining it. 4 hours one Saturday, 4 hours one Sunday, and then you got it. Yeah. Because there's a number of conceptual hurdles you must go through until you get the big picture. So is there any particular part of that journey?
Yes, to help us understand, think of the journey of a human being over their lifespan, and what's the difference between healthcare and hyper-wellbeing?
Wow, such big questions. So I'll try and give the very immediate answer for just now, and if we end up with more space because a speaker doesn't show up, we'll jump back on stage. I can only go into it and say that I was watching people dying or facing death. And I was watching a lot of sick people. And I'm quite inquisitive. there was this kind of norm that when people are sick or facing death, you say, oh, it'll be okay. Instead, I would say, tell me about the pain. And I would listen. And at the same times I waited around these people, I would check the internet, lifehacker.com, and I would see all these productivity tools. And then I would look at people, the way they were dying, and I would say, well, what is a productive life? If you save 1 minute of industrial productivity, what do you do with that minute? I mean, if you save a minute, what do you do with a minute? Spend it on more industrial productivity. And then I began to notice that people die in one of two camps. They either die resentful and bitter, or they die with some degree of acceptance. And I couldn't help but think, since a child I've always wondered, how should we live our lives best? I understood from a young age we only have so much energy, like a battery. So age 12, it was clear we only have so much energy. It gets depleted. We have 28,000 days on Earth, approximately. How do we best spend it? And I had this realization, the ultimate goal, thinking with an engineer's mind, must be to die in the correct camp. That is the one where you're accepting of death. I mean, how else do you live a better life? I'm open, and we can discuss it on stage, and hopefully this will be more collaborative and not me dictating in some sense, but I couldn't come up with a better way of engineering life than to say you should live it such that you die in the good camp. And what I noticed with dying people was when I spoke to them about how they'd lived their lives, there was predetermined routes, predetermined ways of living and acting and being that they had had. And then I thought, well, I should live like that now so that I die in a good camp, if we call it the good camp. And then I saw people wearing Fitbits. And originally when I saw Fitbit, I thought, oh, okay, the market system has made us obese and unfit, and now we sell people, I'm trying to think of a polite word, new products, to try and cure what the market has already caused. So I didn't have much respect. And then I had the realization, why is that Fitbit not just nudging you to take a walk or to get off your ass, but it should nudge you across your 28,000 days so that you die in the good camp, if we call it that. In other words, life optimization. So ultimately, I suddenly saw that wearable computing, should be driving us to live life optimally. Now, that might be quite futuristic. When I began to talk to people, there wasn't that much interest. So I narrowed it all the way down in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I began to focus on, well, to have a successful life, the minimum you need is health. And so I've narrowed it down quite a lot into that, just because it fits the market over the next 2-5 years, certainly so. That was the quickest answer to one of your questions.
So the first thing is that this is a massive raising of our aspirations, potentially. So today we're focused on the avoidance of sickness and the current sick care system. What we're describing is potentially a sort of a pole star above us, which is to have the best possible lives throughout our whole lives, and to not see the health problem as being a sort of separate thing, a sort of exception handling mode of being sick.
Yeah, and it's a fact that what we call health today is it's extremely limited. Like, in my opinion, a perfectly healthy human being would actually seek self-realization. That would be a healthy human being. And even if we only take it as physical health, then, as Nathan, who hopefully is in the audience, will speak about this morning, most people are not even physically healthy by a long shot. So even though we appear outwardly healthy, we're not healthy. And as tomorrow Brad Perkins will speak about, almost half of us may have a life-threatening illness brewing in us, which could be detected today. All we mean by health is, hey, I have no outwardly physical symptoms that are causing me extreme grief at this current point in time. It's a very limited definition, and one which I think human-computer integration will radically transform.
Good. So in the past, you ran a series of very successful conferences called Ecom here in the US and also in Europe. And it was a place at which things like Android was premiered. So you moved on from that space for a variety of reasons.
Can I mention one?
Go on.
Well, I ran an event quite a bit larger than this one. And it went on to be, I think, the best telecoms event. But I would go back to my hotel room each day, and I would say, hey, who cares? Yeah, it was nice to meet people. Yeah, some people made deals. The lanyard sponsors got acquired each year, and there was big exits. And it was, yeah, I loved people. But I would sit there and think, so what? Why are we innovating? Why innovate at all? And innovation seemed meaningless. Like, we chase innovation like it's a holy grail. I don't think it is. I think we've passed that in terms of mankind. We have surplus calories. We can move A to B easily. Probably for the last 30 years, innovation hasn't made a net positive life difference. And so I just couldn't feel good about myself just blindly going along. And then I just couldn't do it anymore. And I began to look towards meaningful innovation. I began to ask myself, well, what should technology be doing?
Good. So you see a parallel change between what happened in the telecom space and what's coming up in this space?
Yeah, that's a hard one to go into, but I'll briefly mention it. I would actually love a couple of hours on it. And it's I really like that topic, Martin, so I'll try not to get excited here. My paymasters, even to this day, I don't make money from events and never have. My paymasters, even to today, are telecom operators. And I began to, about 2008, 2007 actually, I would say I lost respect for my paymasters. They were very institutionalized. We own the subscriber, we own the experience, we're the center of innovator, we'll decide what goes on the handset. And yeah, okay, they were paying me, but I just couldn't reconcile what I was feeling, mainly from the youth, with their attitude internally. And then I began to see that the phone was going to be broken open. I studied the Android specs. The news was saying Android would be a failure. It was just another mobile Linux, but actually I saw it was a lot more. And so I had one of the co-founders come and speak in this building actually next door. And I saw that Telecoms was a way to be enroached by a computer manufacturer and a search engine company. And I was like, wow, I was like, is this only me? This is major. And then I could see that the innovation was going to go to the edge of the network and be broken open, i.e. the smartphone. And I stood on stage next door and I said that telephony would become an app, and so would messaging, and possibly the least used. And actually some audience sniggered at this. We had Nokia keypad phones. And so that decentralization of telecoms, well, absolutely, I can see that what we call healthcare today is going to do the same thing. The internet and the smartphone has never hit healthcare. Healthcare is just becoming digitized. But what we're talking about here is computer science moving towards the health space. That's why it's fantastic being in this building in this location. So, yeah, that's an important point. The smartphone and internet has never really hit healthcare.
Good. And just finally, you had an epiphany this summer which maybe drew all this together. So after thinking about this subject for several years and researching it independently on your own time and money, you had that moment where it all crystallized with wellness as a service. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, there's a lot I can say there. I'll try and keep that to time too. For me, this has been like a Rubik's Cube. I knew 18 months ago something big is underway. But I didn't quite have a handle on it. And I kept working on it and working on it and working on it. I kept talking with people, studying, contemplating. And it was only, I think, 2-3 months ago I suddenly got it and had solved the Rubik's Cube, if we call it that. What's happening over the next 10 years is wellness as a service, and just akin to software as a service. And so we're moving to a model where you're going to actively be paying subscriptions to cloud-delivered, wearable, mobile-delivered services to prevent your sickness, to prevent your children's sickness, to increase your longevity, and your children's, and to optimize your health and wellness. And I don't mean in a fuzzy way, I mean in a concrete way. I mean where you take blood at home and plug it in a cart and you see the actual changes. This isn't a feel-good thing. I'm meaning real optimization, not health spa stuff. I've been calling it scientific wellness.
Good. And just finally, this event's been a hard birth. So trying to launch a new category.
Yeah, because people want to sponsor digital health. People are quite happy with mHealth. People are happy with chronic disease management apps, medical adherence, and so on. And let's just say there was disparity between what I want to do and what PR want to do, and what I'll say the market wants to do currently. Mm-hmm. So it's been exceptionally hard because I'm swimming against a current.
Mm-hmm. So rather than optimization of the existing sick care system?
No, actually, I was told again and again by CEOs, I won't say which, but not at this event, that we love sickness. But we don't say that, and it's certainly not what their marketing side say, shall we say. So it's sickness is almost 20% of the economy here.
Good. Okay. So, and what's your hope for people who are attending this event? What would you like them to experience and take away?
I would like it that we all collectively begin to walk through some conceptual barriers over the next 3 days. I won't say what they are due to timing at the moment, but I hope we can all collectively walk through them. And we have people, we've got 200 people, maybe not here presently, it seems, but we have 200 people coming from a wide, diverse range of backgrounds and disciplines. And I'm hoping that by putting on the presentations, we'll cover content over the next 2 days, and on the third day, we'll get to collectively work together. So I'm hoping that we're pioneers in this space. It's as simple as that. Technically, I should have waited till 2018 instead of doing it now. But I felt we need to accelerate things, however small, and just begin working outwards as quickly as possible.
Good. Thank you.